All right, we are going to kick things off. I want to officially welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Ann Cinnamon, as I said two minutes ago. I help run the higher education business in the US for CriticalArc. I moonlight as a webinar moderator at times. We have a meaty topic today. We're going to talk about change. Change can be hard. Implementing new systems or transitioning away from established solutions, status quo, can be overwhelming sometimes. There's the leadership approval process, there's the funding process, but change can become an opportunity for true measurable growth and stronger alignment across the org. So we're going to talk to these lovely people from various organizations and really kind of hear directly from them because they have all been through successfully complex transitions. And so they're going to share not only firsthand experiences, but some, practical do's and don'ts and kind of some of the tangible outcomes that they've achieved. They're all in kind of various stages of their implementations, but also cover how they built compelling business cases to do things like secure funding, executive buy-in, et cetera. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, the organization they're with, and all the kind of relevant background tied to that. Let's start with Corey. Corey, if you can kick things off for us.
Sure. I'm Corey Garcia. I've been in higher education, business continuity, and emergency management for my entire professional career, 10 years. So not too long, but long enough to manage two different implementations of CriticalArc. One at the University of Colorado. Back then, it was the Denver and Anschutz Medical Campus were a combined institution. They are now the separate institutions, still using CriticalArc. I'm no longer there. Now currently at UT San Antonio and have recently implemented CriticalArc. We went live at various stages over the last 16 months. And yeah, just for everybody's awareness, I'm currently dealing with or UT San Antonio is currently dealing with a situation involving the Turning Point chapter here and a controversial speaker that we're managing. So I might tap in and out as we go through this.
Awesome. Thank you for the context. I'm sure we're all kind of used to that in this industry, but thank you again for making the time to join. Brian, how about you?
Sure. So my name is Brian Rich. I'm the emergency manager for University of St. Thomas. It's situated as three campuses. One is in St. Paul, Minnesota. The other is close by in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the third is actually Rome, Italy. So I've been with public safety for 3 years with University of St. Thomas. Prior to that, I was a police officer in Maryland, police detective in Maryland, FBI agent in New Jersey. What brought me to Minnesota was Mayo Clinic. So I spent about 3 years. I was managing their physical security program. I'm an adjunct professor with 3 different universities for about 18 years. Love what I do. I'm fairly new to emergency management, but it's been a really, really positive experience. And I feel like I've been able to bring a little bit of value to our stakeholders and our students and staff.
Thank you. I didn't know that about you in terms of your background. Okay, Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul Willingham. I'm the Chief of Police and a Senior AVC for Public Safety at Lone Star College System Police Department. We're a system-wide agency that covers public safety for 8 different colleges within the system. It's in the Houston, Texas Metroplex, Northern Harris County, and Montgomery counties. We have 97,000 students spread over 23 different campuses that are within a footprint of 1,400 square miles, so we're pretty spread out. And I also manage emergency management, also reports to me as well. And And so I deal with the police side as well as the emergency management side. And then it doesn't report to me directly, but I am involved with the physical security aspects as it relates to working with that group.
Wow. Thank you all for that very, very helpful context. So we'll jump right into the questions, and we've kind of got them organized in three different buckets. The first is around the strategic buy-in and framing. How do you get the right people involved? How are you positioning it? All of that. The second bucket is around the change management and execution, everything from the kind of different systems in place to the people part of the change management and then actually executing on it. And finally, we'll talk about outcomes and impact. What changes have you seen? Things you might do differently, things like that. So we'll start at the top. Paul, I'm going to actually go back to you for this first question. Can you talk a little bit about what your environment looked like before Safe Zone? You know, were you managing multiple systems or tools to manage safety, response, notifications? Were you in a process at all to evaluate how to improve things, whether it's cost savings, efficiency? Were you kind of in the market for this? Just kind of help us understand that.
Sure. We did have a different mass communication. We mainly only had a mass communication software. So we were looking to expand upon it. I mean, it allowed us to send text, mass text and emails and tie into our social media feed. But it did not go beyond that. And we were the contract for that was expiring, and we were interested in expanding how we communicate as it relates to emergencies. We did, and we still have a PA system that's tied to our fire system that we use. But we were looking for it to be a little more robust, in that sometimes, especially with the mass text, when you're sending to over 100,000 people, it could take a little time for it to cycle through. And so we're looking to add different products. And so when we formulated the RFP, we were very specific about what we wanted to see in any new product, which would include a mobile safety app. It would include some direct communication with our dispatch center. That one was particularly poignant because we do have a hearing impaired community on our campuses, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to reach out to them in a unique way as well. And we also wanted the expandability of it so that if we needed to, we could try different types of communication means, which we have actually gone into now, such as desktop notifications, desktop takeover, and things like that. And so that's how we crafted the RFP. And so Safe Zone came along, CriticalArc came along and entered the competition with their product, and that's how we ended up after that process with Safe Zone in our stable.
Okay, interesting. And then how did you approach kind of building that internal buy-in across the various departments, whether that was via the process of building the RFP or after the fact or even before, like IT, risk, university leadership, et cetera?
Well, we actually pay more for this product than we pay for the other one because the other one wasn't giving us that much.
Right.
Not that much. But I think the key was that one, it was pretty public side view of some of the, I don't want to say failures, but just not meeting a really high bar when it comes to that communication. Our PA system, it's tied to a fire system, and so there was a lot of concern within the community that in and of itself wasn't reliable enough, because sometimes it didn't quite work the way we wanted it to, and other times some of the speakers weren't where they needed to be and things like that. So we wanted to come up with a different strategy to where we had multiple means by which to communicate so that if you don't catch one, the chances are that you'll catch another. And if you don't catch all of them, which would be pretty incredible, like half a dozen of them now, at least somebody around you will, and you'll get the notice. So that was kind of our first step. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, we had some particular subgroups that needed a better means of communication. And while it is required in Texas for all dispatch centers to have TDY phones, nobody uses those. So the only time it ever rang was when it was tested. So our hearing impaired community wanted or needed something that was a little more friendly to what they use, which is their cell phones. And so we wanted to make sure that whatever we deployed in this new vision met their needs too. So fortunately, we were able to get all that kind of in this package. So it already had some support going in. We weren't sure where we were going to go, who we were going to have, but we had support with that vision of making our communication better. And we were able to cite some past examples of where we might have been able to, if we would have some of these things in place, how we could have improved communication as it relates to lockdowns or other types of emergencies, school closures and things like that. And we have, because we're so spread out, we have plenty of them, whether it's weather related or whether there's some sort of police action or something like that. There was a lot of examples we could use as to how, if we get something that has these parameters, we would be able to improve. Then it was important for us to deliver on too, because nothing would be worse if we said all this and we ended up with a new vendor and we signed on a new platform and it didn't deliver, and then we'd be exactly where we were, and so we would lose a lot of credibility. So very important for us to one, cast the vision and get buy into the vision. And it's equally important that we actually delivered on that vision with the product that we chose.
Well said. Okay. Brian, how about you? Can you talk more about kind of the environment? I know you're recent, more recently onboarding, but your environment before, and then how did you approach that buy-in across the different groups and departments? I know there were lots of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I really echo very much what Paul's assessment was, and we took a very, very similar approach. I think in today's environment, especially at the higher education level, there's not one person that runs anything. There's not one person that makes final decisions. Everything is through buy-in. Everything is through corroboration. Everything is through very delicate conversations sometimes, and sometimes through committee. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. That's how you get things done in this world. We at our university, we took a very, very tactical approach. We invited first our emergency management committee. We have about 15 people at very high level that coordinate in this level. And then at our university action response team, it's about 30 different people. And these are all very intelligent, very well-meaning, very sincere, hardworking individuals. And just because maybe I think this is a great idea, or senior members of the public safety department think it's a fantastic idea, we want the tires to be kicked. We want we want a strong evaluation. Talk about pros and cons, and we did that. And we had an assessment. Then we had presentations at very high level at CriticalArc. And they were nice enough and kind enough to give us presentations, a lot of questions, a lot of evaluation. We went through a very detailed RFP. My sincere desire was for CriticalArc. I was the absolute cheerleader for CriticalArc, but it still needed to go through these processes. And all along the way, we still had conversations and very sincere pros and cons. What's working, what's not working, what do we want out of this? Can this product uh, demonstrate this? Can we have this? And luckily, it's easy to kind of market a very, very good product, and that's what I felt with CriticalArc.
And can you share a little bit about what messaging or like value framing worked in terms of the conversations you were having at those very high levels?
I can. So again, what we had was an emergency notification system. It wasn't bad. It was fine. It served the purpose. We were able to launch alerts. Luckily, not that many alerts, but when their alerts were needed, we were able to do that. What we were not able to do previously was have a walking blue light. And I remember some of our conversations was, this seems like it's just a walking, it's a walking duress button. Yeah, that's exactly right. There are timers, there are escort functions, there's monitoring functions, there's alerts and notification systems built in that can notify us when someone needs help. And I have a daughter at my university, and I very often think, well, what could she use that could keep her safe? And as of today, I think that we're launching a soft launch for our staff and faculty. I'm actually extremely excited about this. I don't get too excited about things, but I'm excited about this because I want this product to be brought to our 15,000 students and staff and faculty. I also think that members of my team, not only in public safety, but the administration team, they're itching to have this. Very often I've been getting, when is this going to launch? And that's not because people are impatient. They want this product. I gave a hour-long presentation today to our enrollment team, who I think is a very strong stakeholder. And now they understand. And I showed them both sides. I showed them the command function, which is what our dispatchers utilize. And I showed them the stakeholder user. What do we see as a human being? And now they get to talk to this product to their prospective students, prospective parents. The director of public safety has been in front, customer facing with a lot of these parents. And they're relieved to see that we have this. They're relieved to see that our students and staff and, well, mostly their kids, their students, or rather their children, sorry, are going to have this product and have it pretty readily available to them.
Wow, I can feel your enthusiasm through the computer. I'm excited for you. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Corey, you've got, I don't know if you can talk now. You've got a bit of a different perspective because you've kind of done it twice in different ways. Do you mind kind of walking through some of those same pieces from your standpoint?
Yeah, I'd say that it's important to recognize that no matter where you're at, the needs and the priorities are going to be different. The expectations are going to be different. And the use cases are going to be different. The things that you want to highlight to make your pitch are going to be different as well. But one of the things that I think is important to also acknowledge is that when you're having these conversations, you have to approach this very neutrally. Don't walk into the room with your leadership team with an answer. Allow them to figure out what that answer is themselves. And you might need a little bit of help guiding that conversation, but it's going to look different no matter where you're at. At the University of Colorado, there was a specific need that needed to be addressed. At that time, recently, there was the Aurora Theater shooting, which involved heavy community impact at the Anschutz Medical Campus. That involved our school counselors, our psychiatrists, who had all been interacting with this person. The apartment that he rigged up was also part of the campus surroundings. So there was it really the use case kind of it emanated out of the psychology department, and they wanted to be a little bit more aware of their surroundings, and they wanted to know where their staff were, and wanted a system that allowed them to share information in real time and have that visibility of where folks are. And so that's where we started. We started with that indoor positioning piece, and gradually over time it expands outside of that. With the University of Texas at San Antonio, where I'm at currently, the use case was very different. We're not looking at it from an indoor positioning perspective. That was not part of the conversation at all at any point. What really drove the need for a new system was a few things. One is a lot of systems aren't adaptable. They have a standard package, and if you ask for this tweak or that tweak, like it's pretty standard across the board. And we needed somebody who could be a little bit more flexible. And so we asked for a lot of things. We came in pretty demanding. And one of the things that really caught everybody's attention was how receptive CriticalArc was to some of our unique requests. Others, when we put out that RFP, it was a pretty ridiculous RFP. I'm sure like you guys are aware, ours was like 100 pages or something ridiculous like that. I feel bad for the folks who had to reply to it. But when we put that out, we recognized that this was a very complex RFP. And at the end of it, we put together a one-page checklist. These are the things that we want you to touch on. And out of all the people that we interviewed, not a single vendor other than CriticalArc touched on what we actually wanted them to talk about. And so reading the room is incredibly important. I don't want to hear a pitch from an emergency notification vendor on how you send alerts. All systems send alerts the same way. We get it. What else do you offer that is specific to our needs? And that's really what CriticalArc paid attention to. And one of the things also that was really important, and that's just now and moving forward as we continue to grow, is we're not only are we a massive main traditional university, we're the third biggest university in the state of Texas, but we're also kind of this quasi-commuter school where we have campuses and properties all over San Antonio. So we had to have the ability, looking forward, to target message our different populations. And most of these systems, it's generally message all or none. And there are certain ways to configure different populations within those systems, but without the internal infrastructure to identify where people are, we couldn't really leverage that function. So that's where the geofencing came into play, and that's something that I think CriticalArc does really well.
That's great. So were there any specific objections or resistance that you encountered, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, there was, kind of referencing some of the demands that we had going through the implementation process. There was a couple moments where, and we all recognize, like, we were asking a lot from CriticalArc to make a lot of changes in ways that they hadn't really done before, and you guys did it, but there was certainly some moments where, to be fully transparent here, I think one of the things that was a very, and I know you guys are working to address this, which is kind of why I'm mentioning it, is the user interface function. Like we wanted, we came from a different emergency notification system that really had a cleaner user interface, looked a little more modern, and sometimes the paint on a car is what sells, right? And so we had to overcome that a little bit, but ultimately, everybody realized it's more about the functionality, and we were able to work past it.
Brian, how about you? Any objections or resistance that you can think of, and how did you guys kind of overcome that?
Early on, I don't think that we had much resistance. It wasn't a matter of the resistance is we don't like this or we do like this, but you don't have it. It wasn't that. It was, can our systems interface correctly together? You know, we use Banner for our students and staff and faculty. Is that going to be a problem? We were told, no, 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 not a problem at all. Um, One of the things that I really pressed forward, and I know was shared by a number of people at my, my level, just trying to make it work, was, will we have good, proper, and effective and high quality customer service rep? Will we have what is now, what I'm now understanding is a customer service manager? We couldn't be happier with the person that we got. Uh, it was always a yes, never a no. What do you need? How can we change it? What can we do? Um, and that brought a lot of comfort to me because I know that I'll kind of be the point person. There are other people, but I know that, good, bad, right, or wrong, this kind of falls toward, me and some of the members of my leadership team, my director, of course, and I want us to be built for success. And so with that coordination, with that, community, with that partnership, I feel really good. I feel taken care of. I feel this is a person who has really kind of rallied around not only me, but also the people that I brought in for training and for, you know, community and cooperation. I think that he really hit a home run. I think it really was very effective.
Thank you for that. Paul, I want to go back to a previous question because I'm thinking about I've seen your chancellor be very active and out there and messaging the importance of safety and safe zone and all of that. From your standpoint, what messaging or kind of again value framing worked to get that level of awareness and buy-in and excitement, I guess, across the whole campus?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say lucky, but we had the fortune of having to use it right away. And as you might imagine, the first time you use something that is meant to replace something else, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
so we had a series of massive tornadoes come through the Houston area that literally impacted every single one of our campuses, and that's pretty amazing considering how spread out they are. It was a massive storm front, and you know, and then like a month and a half later, we had a hurricane coming right up our tailpipe. So I mean, we the good news is that it worked the way it was advertised. So the the initial whatever kind of hesitation you have as it relates to the functionality of the platform got instantly wiped out because it worked, which is fantastic. And so that helped our credibility and continue. I mean, this happened even before we were able to even roll out some of the features, right? Like we hadn't even rolled out the mobile app yet because that was going to be rolled out August. All this happened in May, June, July. So that gave us additional credibility to in the bank that we can use when it came to pushing out and encouraging people to sign on to the app. Obviously, whenever there's something new, we had job aids and things made, and we taken it on tour, if you will, to demonstrate its capabilities. It's become, we're in year 2 now, so it's become part of our lexicon in that, like if we have a threat situation or where someone is concerned, Brian mentioned the walking panic, which that's been a huge seller for us. So when we go in, someone's like, maybe we're dealing with a harassment case or situation like that, it's become part of our conversation with the person when we're trying to develop a safety plan for them. Like, hey, have you downloaded the app? Do you know the features on the app? And if the answer is no, then we walk them through it right then and there. If the answer is yes, then we make sure that they know how to work it and all that. And then we test it for them right there. We might send a note or send a radio message to dispatch, just let them know, be prepared for a test. And then, or I've done it before, I haven't done it. And they know that when I press my panic button, more than likely I'm testing it. And so I'll press it and then I'll say, just wait and see what happens. And boom, and just show them that they're getting a response right away, and showing them from my end what our dispatcher's command module will look like. I think the other thing that we had to dispel a little bit, and that is, the whole Big Brother's watching thing. So does this mean that you're going to have, know where I am at all times? And so getting the message across that only when you activate. This is not like a live thing. It is when you need us. So when you're doing a virtual escort and use the check-in feature, then we can watch you go to your car. And if you fail, if you forget or to cut it off, then yes, we're going to be able to know where you are and we'll contact you and all that stuff. But or if you don't cut it off because something happened, we're going to know. So we particularly got good traction on people that work odd hours late at night and things like that. So like they'll call us or they'll email and say, hey, we're doing this and this. And so that gives us a great opportunity to sell. So we did the mass kind of push. This is what it is. It does this, and this. But we also coupled that with that individual one-on-one set up and sell too. We didn't want to we didn't want to, discount the fact that, hey, one person signing on is an important aspect of it too. You build the word of mouth and the trust of the product. So that worked there. So, obviously we have two different sides of the coin. We have the mass comm stuff, and then we have the personal safety stuff that kind of work together. To go back to Corey, who had mentioned what kind of scalability and you had a big long RFP. Ours wasn't a short one either. But it was important to us that we could add things as we go. And so as we get comfortable with something, now we want to add this. So we have actually done that twice now. We're just about to sign an addendum to the original contract to add tying in our voice over internet protocol, all our phones, to where we could send out emergency messaging through the speakers of those phones as well. So every classroom. Prior to that, we signed an addendum to do the desktop notification. So as the system grows and its capabilities are expanded, it just further sells it to our community that, hey, this is a great means by which to get information. So we've used the desktop feature already with a lockdown, and it was well received because most folks have their computers and things on. So and in fact, what the feedback we get, and another sell that we use is that if these types of features actually communicate faster than a mass text. Well, we send the mass text, but if you're logged into if you have our app, you're actually going to get it faster because it's a different type of distribution process rather than through the phone lines or through your carrier, which could actually throttle it down. It's out of our control. So I think just the constant incorporating it into the culture of your safety provision, and it's not something that's going to be like that overnight. And even now we have modest goals that we need to grow on, and our hope is that and our plan is that as time goes on, the product's features will be used more and more and more by the community.
Okay, yeah, I like how you said it's part of your lexicon now, that it really just become part of your everyday process. Okay, great. So we've kind of already moved there, but I'm going to try to get us into the kind of change management and execution piece of it. Brian, I think I'll start with you. And I know you're still kind of early on in the process, but what role did kind of early champions or influencers play in helping the transition succeed? I think you've touched on some of them, but kind of just going into a broader picture, and maybe who else do you think that you'd want to start to incorporate beyond enrollment, beyond some of the other folks you mentioned?
I do think that it bears to mention that if you do have a couple of champions, a couple of cheerleaders that surround you in your mission, I do think that you have a much better shot of success. In my case, when I say public safety, my leadership team, my peers, my director, we were bought, we were sold, we liked it, we wanted it. Once it became a matter of we're going to have this, we're going to get it, it's now approved, then it's a matter of seeking out, having training, sitting down and literally going through the motions. Athletics is going to be a big supporter, or rather, if we do it right, a supporter, but a big stakeholder, guests, visitors. Previously, we didn't have that. So the alerts that we send out are only to students, staff, faculty, and a couple of very disparate, one-offs and two-offs. But if we have large sporting events, and we have a big sign that has a QR code, and they scan in or they text in, now they can be benefactors, even if it's just for a couple of hours. Lacrosse camps in the summertime. Who's going to want to know? The parents. They're leaving their high school kids off or college kids off for a temporary period of time, for a couple days or a week. They want to. They're very invested. Enrollment. That's huge. Student affairs. The students that are in res life, that are uh, housed in our university, why would they want to be a part of this? Huge buy-in. Luckily, I have really good partners. I have really good administrators. But then also I learned that a number of people want to be partners, and we're not necessarily even asked to be a part of this. So I said, yeah, training, the evaluation purposes, the let's interface, let's get in front of this. I mentioned today I was a part of an hour-long presentation to the entire enrollment leadership team. That's really positive. It's a good feature. Dining services, they wouldn't necessarily be part of the initial stakeholder. We need you to kind of buy in, but they've wanted to know more about this. They're very eager about it. So now I think it's just a matter of continuing that cheerleading, continuing the pursuit of having people have buy-in. I sent my daughter a text today, who's with my university, and I said, "Hey, you're the only one that I'm mandating this to happen. So you have no choice. You have to log on." And she said, "All right, I'll log on." So she doesn't know yet how this is going to work or why it's so important. She just knows Dad's mandated it because I'm mean. So other than that, I see this going in a very positive direction.
It's funny you say that, Brian. My daughter works here and she's my test subject on everything.
Love it. Love it.
So Corey, you've again done this twice, sort of. Was there a difference in who the champions or influencers were at your schools? Were there any similarities? Talk us through that.
Oh, absolutely. At the Anschutz Medical Campus in Colorado, the champions really were the police department. Of course, they're always a champion if a change like this is going to happen, and the psychiatry department. Like I said, that was where the initial use case came out of. But yeah, they were immensely influential in getting this to be something that was adopted across the university. Here at UTSA, it was a really a mixed bag of stakeholders, PD, emergency management, and also IT. We look at IT as one of our key stakeholders. And I didn't mention this previously, but one of the important things about CriticalArc that made this an easy decision for us is one of the things that we were hoping to accomplish by switching vendors was having a system that had the capacity to be like an all-in-one solution. We were managing multiple contracts, and this allowed us to downsize the amount of people that we were engaging with, and like I think it was Paul that said previously, or maybe it was Brian. Um, uh, it was very obvious how engaged you guys were from a customer rep perspective, and that was really important, not just for me who worked directly with you all, but everybody else saw this as well. And um, yeah, I would say for UT San Antonio, PD, IT, and emergency management.
Okay. And if you can, I know you might be managing something, but if you could, because you went through the kind of transition more recently, any kind of lessons learned from the actual transition process, managing the multiple contracts, moving to one?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say two big lessons learned. One is that uh, sorry, multitasking, losing my train of thought. One is make sure that in our case, we have, when I say three different stakeholders, emergency management, PD, and IT, um, we're all, from a historical perspective, we're all contributing to the funds that pay for whatever systems that we use. Each area um, uh, contributes a certain percentage based on their level of engagement. And so um, in some cases, and this got really complicated because, like I mentioned, we had multiple different systems, and we wanted to consolidate that down to one. Emergency management was the lead on this system, and IT was the lead on that system, and PD was the lead on that system. I don't think initially, early enough on, we did a good job of identifying who's going to be responsible for what exactly moving forward. And so get all that stuff in writing. This department's going to pay X amount. This department's going to pay that X amount. Um, if we're moving down to one system and there were three previous owners, who's going to own it moving forward? And what's that going to look like? What level of support are these other areas going to provide if we're completely going into this new environment where there's not this distributed ownership. There's a single system and a single owner. So getting that sorted out sooner and not after you sign the contract is something I'd recommend. The other thing, can you repeat that question so I can kind of circle back to what my thought process was?
Yes. So, because you were going through a transition, what any kind of lessons learned from managing multiple systems over to one, or just kind of the change management, for lack of a better term, to going from these over to Safe Zone.
Yeah, I would again just reiterate everything that I just said, but also having uh, a lot of institutions have this, not all of them. If you're a smaller school, you might, but um, uh, leverage your project management resources. That like really helps with the day-to-day stuff. Like here at UT San Antonio, we have various teams and throughout the university that are project management teams that support various initiatives. The IT team has a project management group. Business affairs has a project management group. Real estate and facilities has a project management group. Leverage those resources, and it really helps like with uh, not only managing the project and creating project plans and holding people accountable to the schedule so that you can continue doing your job for the next few months. Not only that, but it helps communicate in a way that everybody else can understand. Some of us might speak the language of the police department, or IT might speak the language of IT, and I might speak the language of emergency management. But having somebody neutral kind of come in and kind of take all that in and create that common package, that picture for you, it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, really insightful. Okay, thank you. Paul, I have a similar question for you on that in terms of, again, like lessons learned in transitioning. Are there things that looking back you would have said, oh, we should have gotten these people involved, or no, it was great. It was anything that you can think back to?
Um, I, I, I think in our institution's culture, um, it, it's, I would say, no, I think we covered everything because of just the way we go about doing things here in general. I mean, we knew that I mean, our, our selection team incorporated reps from physical security to IT, right down. We even had a dispatcher on it because they're the ones that were going to be kind of the end users, or at least major end users. Make sure that they had say. In fact, I recused myself from the selection process altogether just because I spent too much time uh, interacting with CriticalArc in conferences and things, learning about the capabilities. Because honestly, a lot of the things that um, I wanted, I saw through visits with other campuses and whatnot. I just needed to ask questions, flesh it out. So I purposely did not get involved in the selection process. And so, which I think was a good thing because when they became the selected group, it wasn't me with my finger on the scale, or me saying I like these people and everyone just kind of goes with me on it. It was truly a demonstrative of a group of people all trying to have certain elements that they need to have met, because we do have certain IT network requirements that for all software, like you can't buy software here, whether it's web-based or not, without getting IT sign off on the purchase order won't go through, right? And so having all that stuff already part of the requisition process is selecting the vendor. I think ease the way for the actual procurement process once the vendor.
So having that independent process really worked well for you.
It did.
Okay, that's interesting. Brian, you're the kind of the freshest here in terms of the transition. Anything immediate or that you've said, oh, I wish we had done this differently or not?
I do. So I totally agree with the concept and then the engagement of project management, and then knowing your lane. I even as a full-grown adult, I keep walking into spider webs occasionally, and I keep asking myself, well, why did I walk into that spider web? Why am I trying to speak IT? It's not my lane. It's not my specialty. I don't speak it. So I need to kind of pull back and remember that's not my lane. I can ask questions, I can lead, I can try to nudge, but that's not my lane. So that's more of a personal thing. But I do think that having dedicated project management, uh, having who is going to do what, is there a timeline? What's the time frame? What's the deliverable? And kind of having that laid out so that we're all on the same page. Um, Other than that, I do think, coincidentally, I think that we have done a really nice job of beta testing, training. Even though we may not be the experts, we're training our people to the best of their ability. And that's been I've had very, very strong positive receptivity in that. I may even be making mistakes. I may not be saying everything perfectly, but at least it's somebody from my university with my team, with my people, and we're all going along in our journey. We're making headway. We're going in a positive direction, and we seem to be going well. And all the while, I still text, call, email our customer service manager, and he's extremely receptive. And very often he's very favorable, and he's very, no, 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 you're doing it right. This is the right thing to do. He'll call me or text me in kind of at weird hours sometimes just to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know this is going in a good direction. And it's very comforting. That positive interaction is something that I need on a not only a personal level, but also on a professional level. You know, are we getting that customer service management and that guidance in a very effective and logistical way? And for us, it's been very much positive.
It sounds like you're getting some project management support on our side as well as your side, and that's been working well so far.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. All right. We are going to move to our last section, outcomes and impact. And Paul, I'm going to start with you, Mr. 2 years in. And, you know, can you talk at all about, and this could be anecdotally, this could be data driven, whatever, however, what measurable improvements have you seen since implementing? You know, is there a difference in response times, coordination, reporting, campus climate sentiment, anything like that you want to share?
Um, I think there's a, well, I think first of all, there is a compliment embedded in the fact that we've gone back twice to add new things, and there hasn't really been, obviously we test it to make sure it works and what does it look like and all that, but the fact that we have asked to add more things and we're putting more into making these addendums to the contract, I think shows that the institution has faith in the product, because it has already proven itself, worthy of that faith. So I think that's a compliment in and of itself. Our third year isn't even here yet, and we're looking at making sure that we have uninterrupted processes to make sure that we don't expire the contract, or that we can renew, or how that would work. So I think what we've seen, people have begun to have started to warm up to the emergency button, and oftentimes, I mean, be fair, we get far more people like, oops, with the emergency button than not. But part of it is also making sure that our folks don't feel bad about actually hitting the button. Like, that's fine. It's takes a little while to get used to something new, kind of thing. And so, I, I look at it kind of like if you're a referee or an umpire in a sporting event. If you don't notice that it's messed up, then it's working really well. And so I think when people aren't complaining to me about, well, this didn't go through, I don't understand this, or why this, this message, so and so got it, but I didn't know anything about it. How is that working? I think that that is a good indicator, because we were getting all that kind of stuff before. So we do, every beginning of every semester, we do a test of the system, because everybody gets the email, but people can opt out. We have a process of you're automatically in, you can opt out. So, but people have in the past, and once they've opted out, then they don't get the messages. And so what we have found an uptick on, statistical, is that a lot of people are opting back in that had opted out before, because they've opted out based on prior messaging or what have you, and now they're opting back in. And so when we send out the mass test, it comes with both email and text messaging, and in the email, which everybody gets, you can't opt out of that. It says if you didn't get the corresponding text or app notification, this is what you need to do in order to get back into the text or to download the app. And then each time we see, after that test, we see an uptick in people making requests to opt back in or to download the app. So I think,
Incredible. Wow.
and that has been a thing every time. So this will be 1, 2, 3. We just did the second fall, so the fourth time we've done the test, and each time we see that pattern play through.
Wow. It shows how important the testing is beyond just the testing of the system. Huh.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Corey, question for you if you can chat. Anything you can talk to from a, improvement standpoint, whether that's just, again, fewer systems and it's easier to manage or positive feedback you're hearing from the community, anything that you can talk to on that?
Sure. I think what's important here is it can be very difficult to market a system that provides the type of services that you provide without an identity. And I think we struggled with that previously because we had such an amalgamation of systems. So if we're talking about the mobile safety app, it's this thing. But if we're talking about alerts, it's this thing. And if we're talking about what dispatch is monitoring, it's this other thing. And so having that identity, that safe zone is it's been incredibly helpful. And I would say that because of this amalgamation of systems that we had, there is going to be you're going to have to like reinvent the marketing approach. And so, like just to give you an example, if you're moving from one application to another, you're going to have a drop in users. You're going from, in our case, like 4,000 people had downloaded that previous app. Now we're starting at this new app with zero. So we have to create this approach to get that to climb. And we've done that really well. And it's I attribute that to having that clear identity. We're not just advertising, download the app. This is part of a holistic system, a holistic approach to getting information and also sharing information with police dispatch.
Okay, that's interesting. Brian, last answer from you. I know again you've just started, but anything you've seen improve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote down two words, interest and tenacity. And I think that summarizes where people are at. I gave a kind of a short presentation to members of the public safety team, and I was kind of expecting a little bit of pushback or a little bit of, why do we have to have this? One of the sergeants leaned over to me and said, "This is an incredible tool. This is going to really be valuable for a student that's in a dorm room that kind of feels unsafe based on the number of people that are now in his or her room." And they have a mechanism by which they can text public safety and say, "Can you discreetly come and maybe knock on the doors and say, get back to your rooms, it's noisy, we're breaking up this party," and kind of help save face for her, him or her. And that example really went to heart, and I was really impressed. So far, everyone I've talked with at my university has been very, very genuine, very interested, very well-meaning. They want to see this successful. I have no doubt that it will be. And tenacity in the sense of, when's this going to start? When's this coming to all of our people? And that's in a very positive way, not in a, you know, we can't get this up and running. We can. It's now up and running, and I'm excited to have it brought to our university.
Thank you. We are excited also. So with that, we are right on time. I'm sorry we did not get to the questions, but I have captured them and we will follow up with everybody on those. Thank you all panelists for making the time. You all did a fabulous job. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you to everyone who joined. We will send the recording out to everyone, whether you made it or not, and we'll post it on our website in some at future time quickly. But with that, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.